So in today's lesson, we're going to look at a principle of coding called iterations. Iteration means to repeat, to do something again. Now, iterations can get a little bit complicated. It's quite a high-end skill to be able to grasp them, but we're going to go through them slowly, carefully, bit by bit, so hopefully you'll be able to understand it. So to introduce our idea of iterations, I want you to think of the game of whack-a-mole. We've all played it before. We've got a series of holes, and out of those holes a mole will randomly appear. We have to whack the head of the mole with a hammer or a bat, and then the mole will disappear and our score will increase and another mole appears ready for us to be able to hit it. This simple game uses iteration. This is how it works. A mole appears, it waits to be hit with a hammer, our score increases. That's all the instructions that need to be repeated and iterated each time we play the game. Doesn't matter how many times we play it, those 3 steps are repeated again and again and again and again and again. Iteration just means to repeat a set of instructions. Now we could show the iteration in our whack-a-mole game as a flowchart like this one. The iteration bit, the repeating part of the code, is where there's a diamond, has 1 minute passed. That's in effect a timer on this game. And the following instructions then will just keep repeating until 1 minute has passed in the game. A mole pops up, a mole gets hit, we add 10 points to our score. It goes back to the start of the iteration. Has 1 minute passed? No. Another mole pops up, the mole gets hit, we add 10 points to the score. It goes back to the start of the iteration. Has 1 minute passed again? No. Mole pops up, mole gets hit, add 10 points to the score. And these 3 steps just keep being repeated until finally we get to the start of the iteration and we check again. Has 1 minute passed? Yes. We've had a minute of play and the game ends. Here's another example of iteration in the real world. Imagine you're driving a car and you come up to a roundabout and you need to take the 4th exit. As you approach the roundabout, you will ask a question and make a decision. Do I need to come off at this exit? And the answer to that is either yes or no. If the answer is no, you keep going round and you iterate again. Do I need to come off at this next exit? If the answer is no, you iterate again. Ask the same question. Do I need to come off at this exit? And again, the answer is no. And so we iterate for a final time. Do I need to come off at this exit? The answer now is yes. And then you signal and exit the roundabout on the road. In Small Basic, the code for doing an iteration, just like in our whack-a-mole game, looks a little bit like this. It starts with the command word for, and then we use a variable called x and we tell it how many times to count. For x equals 0 to 10. Then we have our instructions that we want it to repeat, and when we're finished with our set of instructions to repeat, we use the final command word end for. So here we've now got an example iteration that will allow our turtle to move on the screen. The iteration again begins with the for command. This time our counter is not going to count up to 10, it's going to count up to 3. And each time the iteration runs through, the turtle is going to move forward 200 paces and then is going to turn to the right. Once it's completed the iteration, we've then got our end for command at the end. Now it's important for us to realise one thing with this piece of code. This isn't going to repeat 3 times. This will actually repeat 4 times because 0 will be the first iteration through the code. So it will run through first at 0, then it will run through second at 1, it will run through again with the counter at 2, and it will run through a final time with the counter at 3. This code will allow our turtle to draw 4 straight lines and make up a square. And here we can see how the square will be drawn. On the first iteration, the turtle will draw the left-hand edge and get to the top and will turn. Then it will draw the second iteration across the top, turn again. It will draw the third iteration, the third line down on the right-hand side, turn, and then will complete the last line of the square with the fourth iteration.